All right. Welcome, everybody. And thank you very much for making time to come out and join us this morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where on the planet you are right now. We're pretty excited to have a couple of the real stars of the sport joining us today to talk a little bit about all things triathlon, their season, technology. But first, before we get into the good stuff, I'm going to start with a little bit of housekeeping. Um, so first of all, there is a Q&A attached to the webinar, so feel free to engage. We've got Human Go Master Coach Ray Harris in the background, and she's going to be attending the questions, and we're going to capture a couple of the really good ones, and we'll post them to Matt and Freddie at the end. And most importantly, um, I'm going to just take a second here. I'm being told to be put on pause, so I'll slow back down. Okay. Welcome again. And well, Matt, how are you doing today? We'll just say hi. How's things going in your part of whereabouts are you right now, Matt?
I'm back home here in Castle Rock, Colorado, just south of Denver. Coming off of my mid-season break, so day one back on the second half of the season, I guess.
Okay, awesome. So it's a special day for you. And Freddie, you're in Switzerland, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I just started here my ATG training camp in St. Moritz in Switzerland. Coming off racing the T100 in San Francisco and preparing for the next one in London end of July. So got a big training
Nice.
block starting now.
Sweet. Okay. So who's at a higher altitude right now? We
I
got
think we're about the
Colorado and
same.
Switzerland. Both the same?
I think
Okay.
so.
All right.
Yeah, about
All right.
1,800 meters.
Yeah, it's like
1,800
I
meters.
think 6,000 feet or something like that.
Yeah, I'm at 62,000 feet. So,
Yeah,
oh, yeah, not much different.
pretty much the same. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All
You
right.
can
So we
get a
can
lot higher
compare
than I can.
yeah, you've got yeah, you can climb a little bit more aggressively in Switzerland than in Colorado. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
the highest climbs they go up to like 2,400 meter. I think it's like yeah, almost to like an 8,000, 9,000 feet.
Man,
Yeah,
that's
we can get there pretty easily, just not our, yeah, it's a trek from the house if I want to do that. But if you go up to Boulder, you can climb that way pretty easily.
fantastic. Yeah, it's I know personally I've done a couple of climbs in and around that altitude on my bike, and it usually starts getting ugly at about 7,500 feet, and then 9,000 feet. Don't ask me any questions because all I'm focusing on is breathing and turning the pedals. So yeah, that's great. So we're going to get into the formal program in just a minute. We're just having a little preamble here and enjoying meeting Matt and Freddie. um, how do you find you're feeling after a day of riding up to 9,000 feet? Like, do you find that it takes a bit more recovery when you're up at altitude, or are you pretty good to go? How long does it take you to maybe adapt to being at that altitude?
So I'm doing altitude camps quite regularly, so I think I'm adapting relatively quick, but still I'm always need like a few days where just have to take it a bit easier. So not starting with intensity in the first days. So now like the first 3 days, I was already training like 5 hours per day, but it was all like in yeah zone one. I mean when you go uphill here, it's definitely at least zone two. And yeah, you definitely should take recovery quite seriously. Also, like drink more, eat more,
Mhm.
and yeah, just take it a bit at the lower limit for sure, and then rather start building like into the camp. So yeah, you definitely need more recovery than on sea level, but yeah, you feel it anyways.
You really need to respect that altitude, don't you? It's interesting. I know some athletes go up to altitude and they're okay, and then some really
Yeah.
suffer immediately. And I think we always said the ones that suffer are the responders. They actually get the bigger bump once once they get used to it. But it's a nice gift or skill if you can go to altitude and perform relatively well, because some of the races, as you know, are at altitude. All right, I'm going to pivot now, guys, and I'm going to save some of the good stuff for a little bit later. I could talk your ears off about altitude camps. It's super interesting to me. I'm going to go back to square one here. So welcome, everybody. My name is Lance Watson, triathlon coach for over 35 years, 5 Olympic Games, a lot of great athletes I've worked with over the years, and I'm going to be your host and moderator today, and maybe chime in on a few topics. But mainly, we're here to enjoy the company of Matt Hanson and Frederic Funk, two of the stars in our great sport of triathlon. Before we get into the good stuff, the juicy bits, just a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, we do have a Q&A going, and please fire away. We have Human Go Master Coach, Ray Harris, at the controls, and she's happy to pass some of those questions on and maybe answer some of the questions you may have as we go. We're going to collect a couple of the good ones for the very end. We're going to pose those to Matt and Freddie. So please feel free to enjoy and to engage. Also, there is a little bit of excitement if you hang around to the end. We're going to be taking attendance. Does that feel like you're back at school? We're going to be taking attendance at the end of the webinar. And for those who stay till the very end, we've got 5 Human Go premium subscriptions, and along with some merchandise. Everybody likes a little bit of swag, so a little bit of merchandise if you hang around to the end. And we have one really exciting prize. Thanks to our friends and partners at the Challenge family, we have an entry to one lucky winner, a free entry into any Challenge family race except for Roth. If you got really excited, you still got to get yourself there the old-fashioned way, but that's a pretty awesome prize as well. So make sure that you hang around till the very end. So to be eligible, it's crucial that you stay to the end. We're going to send you an email to your inbox first thing tomorrow morning, so keep an eye out. All right, on to a little bit of fun before we get into the real, the nitty gritty of triathlon and training. Let's have a bit of fun. So we've got Matt Hanson, multiple Ironman champion, challenge podium finisher, Freddie, silver medal in a couple of big championship races recently. I'll let you speak to your own accolades in a few minutes, but one of the amazing Uber bikers in the sport. And actually, you guys would make an awesome relay team, by the way. I mean, I think I could swim for you. We would probably win everything, even though you'd be overcoming a huge handicap. So let's get into a little bit of the fun stuff. Matt, we'll start with you. Matt Hanson, how long have you been in the sport? Home base location, we talked a little bit about that earlier, but for those who just joined, dig in.
Yeah, Matt, I've been in the sport, I guess, professionally since 2014, and I'm living now in Castle Rock, Colorado. Yeah, that's about.
And Freddie, where's your home
Yeah,
base
30 seconds good enough.
when you're not in Switzerland?
So I just moved to Austria actually last year. Kufstein, it's a very small town right to the border to Germany. But yeah, it's in the mountains as well. I grew up close to there on the German side. So yeah, I'm always somewhere in the mountains.
Two beautiful areas on this planet, for sure. All right, couple of fun warm-up questions. Freddie, something hardly anybody knows about you.
Ooh. So that's a tough one to begin with.
Matt made me ask you first, by the way.
So he has time to think. I don't know an answer straight away. I need. You have another
You
question?
need some time. All right, I'll fire it over to you, Matt, and then you're off the hot seat there, Freddie.
Sure, I wrestled. That was my main sport all through life. So up through college, I was a wrestler until I dislocated my hip, and that ended my wrestling career. So didn't really learn. I ran throughout my whole life, but I never had a bike and didn't learn. I never had a road bike. and then didn't really learn to swim until I was 25.
Wow, well, you're an exceptionally good swimmer for someone who started at 25. That's
I have what they call adult onset swim disorder.
and that's a thing. I'm sure every age group triathlete who's on this call today is like, I can relate to that totally. How many of you have given your parents a hard time for not putting you in swim club?
I mean, we just didn't have it. I was from a small little town, and so like I knew how to swim, but I would like, I would go to the pool to play, not to yeah, work on technique.
Yeah. And so, Freddie, I know, the old saying, sensation is a long time in the making. So I did a little research. Freddie learned to swim earlier. He was the 2016 junior national champion of Germany. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's true. No, I actually did my first ever triathlon when I was just 5 years old. It was actually the junior challenge in Roth. So yeah, I learned swim pretty early, but I was never really part of like a swim squad or anything. So I was not really like swimming competitively. I was like lucky to get into the water like at least once or twice per week. So I got a good base as a kid, but mostly my passion was definitely not triathlon back then. It was playing soccer, and I also always wanted to become a professional soccer player and not a professional triathlete. But yeah, so it turned out differently.
There you go. And you just answered the first question for us, Freddie.
Yeah.
Something that a lot of us didn't know about you is that you aspire to be a professional soccer player. So that's a good one. Okay. So this one's for you, Freddie. I'm gonna put you on the hot seat again. If I wasn't a triathlete, I'd be
Soccer player. Probably not. Probably not. I probably
yeah.
wasn't good enough for that.
Matt, if I wasn't a triathlete, I'd be
I was a college professor before I came to this life. So I taught at the exercise science at the university level for 5 years. So
Mhm.
that's probably what I would still be doing if this whole triathlon thing hadn't happened.
All right, one more fun and silly question. If I had one last meal, what would it be?
I'll go with surf and turf.
That's a
Nice
safe
steak
choice. Always a
and
safe choice.
yeah, nice steak and maybe some lobster or scallops or something like that.
How about
For
you,
me, it
Freddie?
would, yeah, for me it would be like a really good burger with fries.
Burger with fries. Always a good choice too. Well, I'm a fence sitter, and I would go to any of those 5-star resorts and hit the buffet. So so I can't go for it all. Awesome. Well, let's shift into some athlete focused items now. I'm going to start with you again, Freddie. World record bike at San Marin, crushing legs all over the planet. Just tell me what are some of your standout performances in your mind this year, and what do you think has made it could be this year and last year, but what do you think has really made a difference for you in your preparation, as you've been really sort of exploding onto the scene over the last couple of years?
So I think it's not a secret, but I think which is like I call it secret, is just consistency over the last years. So we are never really crushing big volume or like big weeks, but we're having like really consistent volume and intensity as well week by week. I'm lucky that I'm almost never injured, and also barely ill or sick. So quite lucky with that. So I can really keep the training up, and maybe train less than some of the top pros, but just like very consistent week by week. And I feel like that almost I definitely feel it year by year, that every year I'm getting just a bit better. And I
Mm.
think even getting just a bit better on this level is actually really huge. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think if I'm able to continue train like this, I think we're gonna get closer and closer to the top of the sport.
That's awesome. And that there's a huge takeaway message there, I think, for anybody who's listening. It's about staying healthy and being consistent. And I remember the great Paula Newby Fraser. She used to talk about that. I mean, she raced a lot of Ironman in her primes and she won a lot of races. And she used to say that it was better to show up just a little bit underdone, but in, like, but with your body in good shape and in good form. So that's a good takeaway. Matt, throwing it over to you. I mean, you've had a really good start to your year as well. You're running like the wind as you do. Maybe running for the diaper fund now as well with the new baby in fold. What's kind of set you up over the last couple of years? You've been in sport for quite a while. Have you made any sort of changes or tweaks that have kept you going, maybe through your late 30s?
I don't, we haven't changed all that much. I was just thinking this last weekend marked the 8 years that I've been working with the same coach. So it's really just been, showing up day in, day out and getting the job done. And, like I view my job as an athlete is giving good feedback, and, kind of just trust that I've got the right team in place. It took a few years to earn the trust of my team and make sure that, I've got the right chefs in the kitchen. But now it's really I can save my emotional battery for race day and not have to stress about what I'm doing day in day out. I just wake up and say, what do I have to do today? Look at the plan, do the plan, give the feedback, and trust that it's going to be the right thing. And obviously, I'm involved, in the kind of macro planning, but when it comes down to the small nitty-gritty day-to-day details, like having somebody to kind of take that away is definitely beneficial.
Yeah. No, for sure. Right. I mean, I love that message and I love that story of, longevity with the coach and really getting to know and have a partner. And, sometimes if you have something that works, it's rinse and repeat is not a bad um, uh, plan at all. So good to see you sticking with it and pushing forward. Um, Challenge series, some of the very best events on the planet. Um, Freddie, favorite challenge race, maybe toughest.
Favorite and toughest. I mean, I guess that's the reason why it's my favorite, or one of the reasons is
Yeah.
challenge Kaiserwinkel-Walchsee. It's actually my home race. I mean, I grew up like 20 kilometers from there, on the
Mm,
German side. Like it's in Austria, and it's just a super beautiful race, perfectly organized, and yeah, really tough bike and run course. And yeah, I love it. It's actually happening this weekend, and it's the first time since 2018 that I'm missing it, unfortunately. But
oh,
yeah, it would
yeah.
be a bit too much with the T100 series I'm doing this year. Just yeah,
Mm.
have to take back on some of the other races I would love to do.
You do have to pick your spots sometimes, don't you? It is an interesting thing, though. I think if you historically, sometimes you look at athletes who've gone back to the same race where they've had success and they really learn how to, that race suits them, or they find a way to have success again on the same course. So hope to see you back there again. Matt, same question to you. Uh,
Yeah,
I know we were
two
talking
out of the
about
last
Daytona
three.
earlier, but
Yeah, 2 out of the last 3 years, I started my season in Chile
mm,
at Challenge Portovera, and
yeah,
didn't do that this year because my daughter was born that weekend, and that might have been frowned upon. But it's an absolutely beautiful course, and
yeah.
a lot of it, you've got the scenery in the background, but it makes for some pretty epic pictures when you come up over a little crest and people are lined up there to take some pictures with two different volcanoes right in the, right at sunset or sunrise. It's pretty,
Mm,
it's a very beautiful area.
yeah. I mean, it's one of the wonderful things about our sport, isn't it? You think about how global the challenge events are, and they pick some of the most beautiful places on the planet to go do what we love to do, which is, swim, bike, and run, and really enjoy the area as an athlete. It's a real treat. So, yeah, definitely everybody out there, have a look at the schedule, and it's fun to go back to some of the ones you like, but find something new and a new and exciting stimuli as well to put on your calendar because that keeps the training fresh too, for sure. All right, so let's switch gears, guys. let's get into a little bit of the techie nitty gritty stuff that I know all of us triathletes, all of us tri geeks love to get into, and let's talk a little bit about data and AI and that. And let's just talk a little bit about using technology in training. And I'll throw this out to you, Matt, first. Technology and endurance training. This sounds like a simple statement, but how important is it to you to use technology? What are you leveraging right now to stay cutting edge, to stay at the forefront? How do you track and monitor?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously becoming more and more important as the new technological advancements become more and more accessible. And, I really think that that's where, we'll get into this later, but that's where AI is going to be hugely beneficial to all athletes moving forward. But, obviously, I'm, using pace, power, and heart rate on, on a regular basis. And then, you know, kind of finding any other additional data points that I can uh, collect along the way. I've got a lactate monitor, that I am using somewhat regularly. I just spent 4 hours on Saturday morning with an aerodynamic sensor doing some field testing, trying to optimize the position and equipment that I'm using and things like that. So there'll always be more and more pieces of data that are coming out, now, more wearables. We've got hydration monitors. There's going to be, wearable ketone monitors coming out here shortly. Blood glucose monitors. You've got, you can be overwhelmed with the amount of data that we can get, and so finding ways to
Right,
use that in a beneficial way is important.
right. The core temperature jumped out at me as well
For
too.
yeah.
Managing and monitoring core temperature. That's really interesting as well. This actually makes me think about you, Freddie, too. And you talked about consistency and not overdoing it and that. And I'm sure you're using and tracking and monitoring to make sure that you don't hit that tipping point. And so how do you and your coach utilize technology and crunch the numbers?
Yeah, so same as Matt, using pace, power, heart rate, checking lactate quite a lot, especially here in altitude. And here in altitude,
Mm,
I also got the Moxie. It's like attached to your thigh and measures the muscle oxygen. So it's basically like when you go higher up a climb, you can see it like dropping quite a bit for riding the same power. So basically telling you that your muscles just getting less and less oxygen, and you should actually go slower if you want the same
right.
intensity. And yeah, of course, like a core sensor as well, which I used a lot when I was preparing for my first race of the season in Singapore. So doing a lot of heat training. And yeah, so we definitely use technology quite a bit and definitely use it to monitor everything. But like during the sessions, of course, I got my like power targets or heart rate targets, lactate targets. But
Mm,
like one important thing is always to not get carried away by all the technology. So if it's like the feeling is still the most important, and then
mm,
yeah, like when I'm feeling good, like I can maybe push a bit harder. When I'm not feeling good, I maybe just drop the power or the heart rate targets and go a bit easier, a bit lower. So I think it's still quite important to just not get carried away by it. But yeah, it's
mm.
definitely also great to track everything so you can especially also see your progress you're making throughout the season or over the years.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. There are so many metrics and so many data points that we can follow. And I find that sometimes, and this will happen with amateur athletes quite often too, is they will get hyper focused on one data point, and that'll be their guiding light or their maybe sometimes a glass ceiling or a false floor as well, and can hold you back as much as it can help. But on the other hand, we don't want to turn a blind eye to data as well. Sometimes like, oh, I'm not going to wear the watch and I'm not going to, once in a while, that's actually not a bad thing. But it's being able to take all those metrics and numbers and sort of distill it and use it as reference points to cross reference on the course and how your body is feeling that day too. So you can make a intuitive or a more of an organic adjustment out there. I remember the story of Pete Jacobs when he won in Kona, and he had his power numbers, and then he just kept superseding. So finally, he just stopped paying attention and just rode, and he just was having a day and took it to another level. So that's a good example of that as well. Um, this does kind of take us down the pathway, though, of so many technologies, and it's really interesting to hear measuring blood oxygen and core temperature, and my goodness. And I think for most of the people who are listening today, like that's maybe a little bit outside of their skill set. They don't do this full time. They don't follow full time. You're working with full-time professional coaches. This is what you do day in and day out, and you have time to really sit down and analyze and hyper-analyze and look at graphs and files and a different output. But as we move forward and we think about AI, and AI is such a hot talking point right now. We're seeing it in every realm of everything we do, and it's coming. It's not like something that's out there and nefarious and just sort of vague. It's really coming down the pipes in all walks of life, and especially in sport. Maybe I'm just going to pass this back over to you, Matt. But because you're also a coach, you're an exercise scientist. Um, how do you see AI impacting endurance sport? Now, but also in the future. Like, how do you see it helping us become better athletes?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's, with these programs that Human Go can deliver, it's opened access up to a lot of people who wouldn't have been able to afford a program. I mean, at the very basic starting point, it was, you had the options of paying for a coach monthly who's doing everything, and taking a lot of time with you, or downloading a free plan essentially, or downloading or paying a small amount for a plan that had no customization to you as an individual. And now, it kind of got the foot in the door by increasing the access. But as the technology continues to develop, it's going to continue to get better and better, and have more and more use cases. We've talked a lot about the data that we're able to collect, but that has to be meaningful. If you collect data and have no idea how to use it, then what's the point? And I think that we're great at, people, companies are great at selling you data collection devices, but not really great at giving you actionable insights along with that. And I think as coaches, we know how to put power and heart rate together, and but that's those are only two data points. Well, now how can we add a third and a fourth and a fifth data point to those two? So as we can collect more data and analyze things after a ride, I think AI is going to be able to look at that data and give us a lot more feedback than a coach can do in a short amount of time. Anyways, it'll be able to instantly give you that feedback post-workout, for example. And that's just one future application that's going to be coming down the pipe in not too distant future, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's again, for somebody if taking deep dives and looking at these files is above their pay grade, to know that you can get a real-time feedback, continuous adaptation, being able to curate a lot of data and cross-reference it and put it all together, it's a huge super tool, really. And so what about you, Freddie, when you think about AI and integration into sport and technology, and what excites you about sort of really, I want to say the future, but it's not the distant future. It's coming, and it's coming now.
So I will obviously not use AI as like my main coach. I will obviously keep working with my coach, but we are probably going to use AI as like let's say it's like a co-coach, second coach, or like kind of
Yeah.
getting second or even first opinions straight away after sessions, because yeah, it can actually exactly give you this instant feedback, not after just like one session, but maybe also sees your progress over more sessions, or maybe also your fatigue, and actually saying you should slow down a bit. But sometimes maybe coaches don't see right away. So yeah, it's definitely a help for my coach, like to use it, and just like helps him focus yeah, much more, maybe also on other aspects in the coaching business. So yeah, I think it's a great tool, like as help.
I love that example of assistant coach, right? Because we all know that we're human beings. We're always going to need, you know, human contact, human interaction. We're going to need guidance. We're going to need accountability. And we get some of that from numbers and data and feedback. But we all need a human to talk to as well. Um, so I guess, going back to you, Matt, um, we think about, the integrations of these technologies and racking all this data, but then sort of life happens too. Like you've had a baby, and it's not always a straight line mission from today to a goal. And so when you think about the variables, the curveballs that life might throw you, how do you see technology and AI in particular helping you navigate some of those curveballs?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I like the analogy Freddie used as using it as an assistant coach. Like when you're able to start stacking 4, 5, 6 data points on the quantitative side, and then have somebody that you can talk to and give some of the qualitative feedback to as well. Like the qualitative can make suggestions, and then the qualitative side can be, so they both kind of can give suggestions and try to meet in the middle. Like it's like a pairing or a partnership working together. And, again, I think that the more that we're able to, um, you know, as we collect more and more individual data points, being able to, stack those on top of each other and make meaning, really strong meaning out of it. And then having,
Mm,
somebody knowledgeable on the other side of it that knows how to use what
mm,
we're getting spit out at us is, I think that that's where the future is going. And
mhm.
yeah, it's going to be fun to be a part of.
Yeah. It's I'm thinking about my engagement interactions with Human Go, and I'll use it as an athlete for fun as well, even though I don't have the same kind of goals that you do. I'm probably more like most of the listeners on the call, and I'll get them the message at the end of the week. It's hey Lance, you good job this week. You were supposed to spend this much time in this training zone, and you exceeded that, or you didn't do enough here. And just so you know, this can be the outcome of that. So it's this AI engine is monitoring all of my uploadable technologies, curating it at the end of the week, and giving me feedback on how well I adhered to the training plan, whether I exceeded or I didn't, quite hit the targets that we set out. So that part to me is really, really cool. And then the other thing that I think is really, really interesting too, and we haven't really touched on, is you know, Human Go's virtual assistant coach. Freddie, you talked about an assistant coach, Hugo, and Hugo is essentially a Chat GPT based assistant coach who is bridging the gap between just crunching numbers and having a way to communicate and interact with the athlete. And I'll just give you one more little example. I have athletes, and I might get a notification that says someone's HRV is a little low or high compared to normal, or athlete A had a high resting heart rate today. And as a coach, you're not like, okay, well, panic sets in, I got to change everything. But you're okay, mental note, need to pay attention to Freddie because your resting heart rate's high today. It's like a little wake up. So as I know, as a coach, having a technology or a super tool who's paying attention to all of the metrics, who can highlight something, maybe even a little bit quicker than me, getting up at crack of dawn with my coffee at 5 a.m. and going through every athlete and file feverishly. It gives me a real big head start. So then I can focus on communicating and interacting with the athlete, as opposed to spending hours and hours going through all those different technologies and files. So I think when we I'm going to pivot a little bit here. We look a little bit at the future. Um, and maybe I'll put this one out to you, Freddie, and put you on the hot seat here. Um, what do you think are some of the emerging trends in sport and AI training, racing, pushing limits, reshaping competition? Like, if you were gonna kind of pay attention to what's out there, maybe dream a little bit big too, what do you see coming down the pipes as far as AI and technology?
So I mean, yeah, definitely, like Umango, like the virtual assistant coach, AI, but also kind of like re recovery devices, using AI as well. And yeah, maybe even having like a live AI feedback, like on your bike computer or something like that. Like,
Right.
so when you're pushing, let's say it sees your heart rate and your power, and it knows all your zones and everything, and it tells you right away
Yeah.
after 20 minutes warm up, or maybe take it a bit
Yeah.
easy today. It doesn't look like your data
Yeah.
doesn't look so great, something like that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be like really helpful. So like right now, I would have to message or call my coach after I did the warm up and tell him, yeah, I don't feel so good. What should I do? And obviously, he's not always available depending on when I do the session. And yeah, having just
Right.
like AI right away, it's I think a great would be a great tool to use it.
Right. And that's like right there too. Like, that's not a stretch of the imagination. Like, that is coming quickly. And of course, my coaching hat's on when you're talking about too. And I'm like, I want to be the coach, and I want to be, whatever. And I get a notification that, Freddie, Matt, athlete A is out there training, and they're hammering their brains out when they shouldn't be. And getting that feedback and being able to talk to them after. Of course, whenever I get notifications from Hugo, it's usually like, okay, he doesn't say this, but this is what I hear: suck it up, Buttercup. Get going. What do you think, Matt? What do you think is coming?
Yeah, I mean, Freddie went kind of on the individual day basis, so I'll go on the kind of the more macro level, and I think the traditional way of measuring performance gains is if you use one metric, and if average that over the last 6 months, and if it's growing, then you're getting fitter. But there's a lot of flaws with that. Like, Freddie, for example, went from lower to higher. So, if you're using power, well, he's got to do more now. Then, he's got to do more output to get the same power levels. Like, it's going to have a bigger impact on him. So then, does he switch, or, so I think being able to use more than just the one data point, to grow your CTL or your arbitrary fitness is going to be where the next, big improvements are made and help us kind of as we're guiding our performance improvements. And that, like, the ability to say, oh, did your heart rate go down at the same power level because you changed altitude, because you got fitter, or because you're so tired that you just can't get your heart rate up, or because you're freezing, or because you forgot your coffee that morning. Like, all those are little variations that, we just are kind of using intuition on, or educated guesses. But I think the AI is going to help us answer those questions a lot faster, and with a lot more definitive, in a lot more definitive manner moving forward.
That's awesome. I actually want a virtual coach who tells me I need to have a coffee. That would that would be the ultimate virtual. Pull your bike over right now and get yourself an espresso. Those are really, really great points. And I guess we could even look a little bit broader than that, and we can think about, overall health and wellness, right? Because, training and sport is one piece of health and wellness, and if we're getting all these different feedbacks on what's going on in your body, I think it help guide us, as far as some of the other elements. Matt, I guess I would say things like nutrition. You imagine you finished your session and here's what you did with your body, and now here's the recommendation of what you should do nutritionally, like right now. Like that's an interesting potential outcome.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, even, as Freddie was saying, that, as we are able to measure more and more, we're going to have like alerts that say, hey, your sodium levels have dropped too far during a session or during a race. And
Right.
that'll definitely change the game as well.
Right. Like your core temperature was this, your sweat rate was that, the environment was this, you're in this climate and this at this altitude, like all these things are being considered. Like it's super fascinating. Yeah. Awesome. Well, so we can't, we talked about the human element and the group element and connection. It's we're not training robots out there. We love to do sport. Psychologically, some days we're a little bit higher, some days we're a little bit lower. That's things happen in life. So, the two of you and myself as well, um, we are putting together training groups that are utilizing this technology. And part of the idea is to help people have what we would call a hyper personalized experience or pathway. Okay. But also part of it is to create an environment where we can all train and share together, but also, not lose track of what we want to accomplish. And so maybe Freddie, tell us a little bit about your group and what you're trying to accomplish through Human Go and using AI, and what's your personal flavor in there, and how you're having fun with it too.
Yeah, so mostly I am and going to use it like a social platform. So
Mhm.
trying to share some of my like important sessions, but also some of my easy sessions, and just like tell something about it, why I'm doing this, how it helps me get better, and
Mm.
yeah, but also when I was traveling to San Francisco last week, I actually did did a post where I was like giving some tips about like how I'm overcoming or trying to overcome the jet lag, so stuff like that,
Mm.
or like
Right.
what I'm like my top tips for training an attitude. So yeah, I'm not trying to be too professional. It's all yeah, should be all pretty social. Always happy to answer any question I get on there. So yeah, it's more
I
like a
mean,
social platform.
I
Yeah.
want to get the inside scoop on Freddie Funk and how he rides so fast, and how do you get over jet lag and ride fast? That's some gold right there. Um, so definitely, you guys look up Freddie and look up his group on Human Go. It's free to give it a go, and learn a little bit more about him. And it's funny. I was thinking about you going to San Francisco, and the escape from Alcatraz happened, and there was a big group in Human Go who were focused on that event, and it was really fun to see them sharing everything from GPX files to, here's what I saw, on the course a couple of days before the race, to sharing pictures of, finishers medals and all that too. So it's an awesome community combined with, you know, a group of athletes who are training, in this case for that's one event, but they may have other big goals too. So it's put into their personalized periodization, and the program and pathway is curated specifically for them. So you might have 100 different athletes all doing that race who have other goals and have different training plans, but they still are at that race in shape without losing their pathway, and helping each other out along the way and sharing stories too. Matt, over to you. You've been a coach for quite some time, exercise scientist, physiologist. How are you utilizing Human Go with your group?
Yeah, so I started the coaching business when I walked away from the teaching side of things back in 2015. It was kind of filled I love being a professor. I love teaching, so this kind of filled that void. And so we've added a few coaches to the group, and we have a pretty big group of athletes. And so I've been able to use Human Go as a an additional offering, to have kind of a medium and a light touch coaching program where, it allows the athletes to benefit from, the AI program made specifically for them, while also being able to talk with myself and the other coaches about, how to set up their race day nutrition plan, and, how to get through what do you do during a transition? A lot of those questions that, you don't know that you don't know until hopefully don't have to experience it. So, to try to take away a lot of the questions, just being somebody there. And then obviously we have the social aspect with a group. And, that's anything from talking about training tips, doing some live talks, to being there to answer questions or ask questions, or have somebody ask questions to. But also, it's a lot of people who are like, oh, I've done this race before, or has anybody, I'm traveling to whatever, the new Challenge Canada race. Can anybody help me with where to stay, or how long in advance, or what's the best flights, and those types of questions as well. Just having people to talk to, and add the social side of it, especially now where more people are trying to train indoors for safety reasons. Keeping a way to have the social aspect of it is really important.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Um, I think about my own experiences as well, Matt, and particularly when, the pandemic kicked in and we were all without training groups and we were all having to do it on our own. And it really put a lot of impetus into coaches like myself to create essentially virtual communities where we could all get together and, either train remotely together or share the stories or, share PRs, celebrate each other. And, it kept a lot of people going, but some of the outcomes that I didn't really foresee was like how tightly bonded the community. Like I would see athletes inviting other athletes to come and, stay with them. Let's go do a training camp together. Hey, we're doing the same race. Let's meet for coffees. These are people who, have been connected and communicating right through social media for some time. And then they go and actually help each other and create these bonds and friendships through these virtual communities. And it's really, really powerful and a great way to, hang out with like-minded people and support each other. So no, I love those examples. I'm also doing an AI coaching group as well, which is free to try, and you guys are all welcome to come check it out. It's probably a little bit more coaching driven, I guess, or technology driven in the sense that I'm really having a good look at the training that's produced, and we're having good conversations about what we're trying to accomplish physiologically, and really trying to dial it in for your different events too. So three awesome options. So come join all three. You'll learn a lot for sure. I know I would. Gosh, I mean, what a great opportunity. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, working through the groups now. We've got a little bit of an opportunity for some of the Q&A. And I know that behind the scenes, there's been a lot of technological questions that are being asked that's probably maybe even a little bit above all of our pay grade, like how does it work? And I got some pretty good ideas around that, but I definitely wouldn't want to shoot from the hip too much on that one. So we will do a future webinar and seminar. We will bring in the CEO and founder of Human Go to talk about the machinery behind the AI and how it actually curates and calculates. And I think that'll be a really interesting one. But I'm going to flip over to the brain trust now at Human Go. And I know Coach Ray, you're back there. Feel free to post a couple of questions for our athletes here on the chat. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to I'm going to put one out to you guys individually. Okay, Freddie, so you're at this, altitude training camp in Switzerland, and we are, how many weeks are we out from the Olympics now? Does anyone have an accurate number offhand? It's coming up pretty darn quick, right?
Yeah,
Six.
it's I think end of July or yeah, so it's like 5.5 weeks. Yeah.
Right. So you are in an area where you're surrounded by people who are striving for the Olympics. Tell me one person who is in your sphere right now who is on that pathway, who inspires you to be a better athlete day in and day out, and why.
So my training mate, who I share the apartment with, Jebbe Keindl, he's an Austrian short distance triathlete
Yeah.
who's going to race in Paris, and yeah, he's definitely
Awesome.
inspiring me, especially because he's also from where I live, so we spend a lot of time together back at home as well. So I was following his whole qualification process and everything, and realized for the first time, even though I was also doing short distance, how super stressful the qualification is. It's
Right.
just like with meeting all the qualification criteria, traveling around the world for races to make some points, or to to make other athletes not to have any make any points, just it's just super
Right.
crazy, the qualification. And yeah, but now he was yeah, it was super great that he qualified. And yeah, now he's trying to get fit here. We also even got actually similar training, which is quite interesting, like combining the middle distance and short distance training, which shows me that triathlon is triathlon. So there's actually not too much differences. Yeah, we both need the same fitness. Never mind which distances we are going to race. And yeah, it's definitely quite interesting.
That sort of story of perseverance and dedication and going after that big goal like relentlessly. I mean, I've been a part of many athletes who've gone down that pathway and that journey, and you're right. It is not an easy pathway, and it's a dogfight right down to the final line. So that's awesome. That's super cool. It's fun. Fun. It's inspiring. You'll have a connection to the Olympics through him, right? So that's going to make that
Yeah.
race extra exciting for you. And I'm sure as you guys train together and he sees you have success, he gets probably confidence from that as well too. You can get confidence from your training mates when you see them do well too. You're like, oh, right, he's at the level and I'm training with him. Looks good for me too. So that's awesome, Freddie. Thanks for sharing that. Matt, similar question. You've been around the sport for a few years now. I'm sure you've had the opportunity to train with many great athletes. Um, and I don't want to leave anybody out because I'm sure you could pick 20 athletes who have, were amazing. But if you had to pick one athlete who you had the opportunity to train with, um, who you could, pull into your personal training camp right now and try and help you get to that next level, who inspired you, who just brought it day in and day out, physically, mentally, emotionally, who would that be?
I really miss training with Tio. He was a great training
Right.
partner for a number of reasons. We started training together, I guess, in maybe 2018, and I just learned so much from his approach and
Mm-hmm.
the way that he was able to build through a season. Like, when I was much younger, I would be so dialed in and 100%, chomping at the bit every single session,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was doing a great job of peaking in April, and then I would kind of fizzle out and not peak in October when it was going to matter the most for the goal races that I had on that year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned a lot from him on kind of how
Mm-hmm.
to um how to balance that approach and take a step back some points in the year and then really dial it in when it matters the most.
TO, for those who don't know, is Tim O'Donnell, recently retired and one of the true, you know, champions, strongmen. and gentleman in the sport for sure. And I have a lot of time for Tim. He always has he'll always help out a younger athlete coming up or have words of wisdom as well too. And that's great. It also makes me think about the flip side of that, Matt, is when you're young and fire in the belly, you can really give something to back to maybe somebody who's been around for a while too, and bring some energy and some passion and some enthusiasm.
For sure.
So I'm going to pick a couple of questions from our Q&A here, a couple of fun ones. Put this out to you. After the Olympics, a lot of Olympians will switch to the longer distance. Are you afraid of these guys on the start line? Like my country mates, Jacques Green and Martin Van Riel. We know who they're fans of. What do you think, guys?
I
You
wouldn't say
can't be afraid of
afraid.
anyone, right?
No, definitely not afraid. I mean, obviously, like yeah, I've got a lot of respect for those guys. They're great triathletes, but I also know that it's not just because you're good on short distance, it automatically means that you're good on the longer distances as well. I mean, Martin van Riel definitely proved it that he is, but also he's not dominating. It was still a very tight race in San
Mhm.
Francisco, and I definitely think he's beatable as well. So yeah, there will be for sure a lot of great athletes stepping up to the long distance, and but I'm not afraid.
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to it. It will yeah,
Right.
I have to step up my game probably to beat some of them, and that's what's motivating me.
If the challenge of, racing somebody new scares you and doesn't motivate you, it's time to hang up the shoes. There's going to be a new cycle of athletes coming in, even before the Olympics. There's the ones that didn't make the selection, that are already coming in, up to long course. And, that makes everything faster, and that's okay. Like that's the whole point of doing what I do is so I can find out how fast I can go, or how deep I can push myself. And if it takes new blood coming into the sport to get a little bit more out of myself, great.
Those are great answers, and I think historically in our sport, um, I think like someone like when Chrissy Wellington, not that she's coming from short course, but when she came into the sport and really elevated the level of women's long distance triathlon. And what happens is the sport responds, right? Everybody's like, oh, there's another level I can get to. I can think about watching you run, I think 234 in Texas a few years back there, Matt. And like that was an outlier running split at that time. And I think people around the world kind of go, oh, that can be done. I need to raise my game a little bit. And some of the bike splits that you're putting down right now, Freddie, I mean, like it or not, you're pushing the sport to get a little bit faster. So you better keep getting faster too, because they're coming. Yeah. No, that's a great question though. I got another one for you. This is a little bit in the consistency, I guess, framework that you put out there, Freddie. But how much recovery time do you take during the calendar year? And does rest for you mean nothing, or would you still take over and do other sports, or what does recovery look like for you throughout? Not maybe during one period, like in when you think about the entire calendar year, what does recovery look like for you? No, I'll put that to Freddie first, and then over to Matt.
So it actually gets more and more difficult because you can really race now from January until December every month.
Mm,
So yeah, you
right.
definitely have to pick your races carefully, and also need
Mm,
time, not just for a long training long training blocks, but also exactly for recovery, and like a off season. And yeah, I definitely do like a typical off season after my last race of the season, which this year is going to be end of November. So after that, I will anyways go on honeymoon for 2 weeks, where I probably won't think
oh,
too much about triathlon.
nice.
I usually try to keep moving a bit. I mean, you can always pack your run shoes or swim goggles, and yeah, then after that I just usually it's usually like 2 weeks where it's like that, and then it's 2 weeks where I don't get like a training plan yet from my coach, where I just he calls it fit for fun, where I just try to get some fitness back, train again like more normal, but without any plan, without any um pace targets or anything. So it's really
Mm,
just for fun. And then anyways, you've got 48 weeks of pure grind ahead of you. So I think it's not just important for the body, but especially mentally. It's good
yeah.
to take some time off.
Yeah, no, 100%. And longevity in the sport too, right? It's taking that break sometimes before you really need to take that break. What do you think, Matt? What does your annual rest cycle look like?
Very similar. I like to have a good block of training, race 3 or 4 times, and then shut it down for a week, kind of mid-season. I did that the last week, and it was tough to, like I came off of a first and a second for my last 2 weeks of the year, and kind of racing really well, and then that's when I
Right,
needed to take the break because the way the calendar is going to roll out. So it's tough when the
right,
motivation is all time high, but I know that
right.
I can't keep the fitness keep growing the fitness in a linear line throughout the year. I need to let it take back so I can bring it further up for the next block of racing. So I took last week with no structure. I took, I think, 4 days completely off in that the first day was a post-race recovery, and then I got in the water, and then the next day was off, and then I got on the bike, and then really just whatever I felt like on the day. I literally went to the pool on Thursday and got there and like, I don't want to get in, so I just left and just did some strength work, and that's great. Like it's it's when you don't have that schedule, then it's do what you want, fit for fun, like Freddie said. So I'll take a week in the middle of the year and then 10 days at the end of my last race where I'm completely off calendar and then kind of just slowly get back into things.
Yeah. Um, that's what a huge like flag waving around too when it's like I don't want to get in, right? Like that's like you absolutely shouldn't get in. Whereas there's other times of the year where you just have to get in, right?
Right.
and just and
Yeah,
just
your recovery week isn't the time to force things. If you're not, like it should be recovery. And if you have to force it, it's not mental recovery either. So
yeah, no, 100%. And I think about the athletes who had long and successful careers, then they would respect that recovery and it's with so many more events happening year round, it's easy to start putting more and more on your calendar too, right? Yeah. Now, do you ever integrate like a B race or something like that in just coming out of a recovery block, or how do you manage? I guess maybe I'm gonna pose it in a little bit different way. If you go into an event that's not your A race, how do you manage expectations? Because I can see if you're in your recovery block and you're thinking, oh, I got this race coming, maybe I'm going to cheat myself out of some rest, or I'm going to start pushing a little bit earlier, or that kind of thing. How do you reformat that in your brain, or how do you manage expectations going into a B race?
in the last 2 years or the last year, that got a lot harder because uh, with the series and there's 3 different series out there and they all have their own series points. So if you're focusing on one of the series, there's really no B race. You've got to be ready to roll, and that doesn't mean you're at your peak fitness for all of them, but you still need to perform to the best of your ability. And so managing expectations is just going in with a race plan, and my expectation is that I execute the race plan and let the results sort itself out. Obviously I have outcome desires, and hopefully I get the desired outcome if I follow my plan as best as possible. And if not, then you tip your cap to the guys who beat you and adjust your plan moving forward.
Yeah, gotcha. Freddie?
Yeah, exactly the same like Matt. I mean, this year with the T100 series, it's 8 races, so there's already quite a lot, and each of them is a race. So any race I do this year, I'm going to prepare for it. I'm going to taper. I'm going to race the best of my abilities, and then I'm going to recover from it, and then same starts again
Mm,
for the next race.
yeah,
But yeah, like during the winter, when it's possible, I maybe try to do some local run races, or maybe even
yeah,
triathlons. But then I'm like not tapering from it. Then it's really just like a pure training race, and then I don't really have any expectations because it's the same like for like a training session then. So it's like my expectation is that I'm going to have a really good training day, and then it doesn't really matter if like I'm winning the race or not. Yeah, I just want to get the best out of myself on that day. Have a hard training session, and it's preparation for the A races.
That's good. That's good impact and good feedback for all athletes out there. You know, don't be afraid to commit to your big goals and go all in, right? Like put that out there and really have that shining star, and then also make sure that you take time to rest. And I love the the local fun ones too. Like they're important, right? Like it put a smile on your face. You see some of your local buddies that you've been hanging around with for years that you don't get to toe the line with, and it's a little bit of a different experience. Like you see, you don't taper; it's just a workout. So good learning and good advice from two of the very best in the sport today. Well, we're going to move towards wrapping it up, you guys. We've been here for just over an hour, so I don't want to keep you too long. Just a couple of closing comments to everybody who's here with us today. First of all, thank you for showing up and staying with us. I hope you had a couple of good takeaways and learning. I know I did. Always great to hear from two pros and experts who live the life of being an athlete full time. That's what they do. For those who stayed here in the long haul, as promised, you have a chance to get a bunch of benefits. First up, the prizes. So the team is now taking your attendance, and you're going to have lucky draw winners, including a whole year of free Human Go Premium. So that's amazing. Some Human Go swag T-shirts, and again, one lucky attendee will get a free challenge family event entry. Like that is sweet. So thanks for sticking around to the end. Watch out for your email for links to access special virtual training clubs from myself, Matt, and Freddie. That'll be coming down. So if that's something you're interested in trying out, try one, try both, try them all. Stick around on the one you like the most. And if that's not enough, everyone here will get a webinar attendance special discount valid for 48 hours for Human Go Premium. So just for being here, you've got an opportunity for a discount. So check your inbox, your mailbox for that. So Matt, Freddie, thank you so much for your insights, for joining us today, for sharing your insights. Thank you to the Challenge family for helping us make this happen. And particularly thank you, Human Go, for pulling us all together today to share our stories and journeys. Good luck this season, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.